Imagine waking up very early on an ordinary, unremarkable morning and looking into the mirror without recognizing your own face at all. You know the name written on your birth certificate. You know where you live. You know who your parents are, but that reflection staring back at you feels like a complete stranger. This is not the plot of some horror movie. This is truly the daily reality of people living with neurological disorders, so rare that most doctors will never encounter a single case in their entire career. So today, we're going to dive deep into a rarely explored territory of the human mind, the strangest and most intriguing brain syndromes ever documented by modern medical science. Get ready right now, because some of these bizarre conditions sound exactly like science fiction, but they are absolutely real and confirmed. Let's start with the famous Cotard Syndrome, also known as walking corpse syndrome. People with this condition are absolutely convinced that they are dead. It is not a simple metaphor. It is not ordinary depression. The patient literally believes their body is rotting, that their organs have disappeared, that they are walking around as a corpse. There are documented cases of patients who refuse to eat because, according to them, dead people do not need food. The exact cause still puzzles neurologists all around the world today, but it is believed to involve a deep disconnection between the brain regions responsible for facial recognition and the regions linked directly to emotion, causing the person to completely lose the sense of being alive and present in the world. Another disturbing condition is Capgras Syndrome. Here, the patient perfectly recognizes the face of a loved one, a spouse, a child, a parent, but is absolutely certain that this individual has been replaced by an identical impostor. The loved one is still there, with the same voice, the same way of walking, the same shared memories, and yet the patient insists it is not really them. Some researchers explain this phenomenon as a rupture between visual recognition and the emotional response normally expected when seeing that familiar face. The brain sees, but the heart does not feel the usual recognition, and this disconnect creates the delusional belief of replacement. There is also alien hand syndrome, one of the strangest ever recorded. In this case, one of the patient's hands seems to act with a will of its own, completely disconnected from the person's conscious intention. It can unbutton a shirt the other hand just closed, grab objects without the owner's permission, or even try to grip the person's own throat during sleep. Many patients report needing to physically hold down the rebellious hand with the other one to stop it from causing trouble. This condition usually appears after surgeries that separate the two brain hemispheres or after certain types of stroke, when communication between the brain regions responsible for voluntary movement breaks down. Let's talk now about foreign accent syndrome, a phenomenon so uncommon that fewer than 100 cases have been documented worldwide. After a head injury, a stroke, or even a severe migraine, the person suddenly begins speaking their native language with a completely different accent than usual, as if they had been born in another country. A British woman might wake up speaking English with a French accent. A Brazilian might start speaking Portuguese with an intonation that resembles an Italian accent. The person never visited that place, never had prolonged contact with that language, yet the brain reorganizes speech patterns in a way that sounds foreign to everyone who knows them. Another extremely rare case is Capgras Syndrome. While in Capgras the person believes familiar faces have been replaced by imposters, in Capgras the opposite happens. The patient believes complete strangers are actually a single person in disguise, changing face and clothing in order to follow them. Imagine living with the constant feeling of being stalked by someone who changes appearance at every corner. This condition is often accompanied by intense paranoia and anxiety, making everyday life extremely distressing for whoever suffers from it. There is also the condition known as exploding head syndrome. Despite the frightening name, there is no actual physical explosion involved. What happens is that moments before falling asleep or right after waking up, the person hears an extremely loud sound inside their own head, like an explosion, a gunshot, or a thunder, even though nothing actually happened in the environment. There is no pain associated with it at all, but the shock is so intense that many people wake up in a panic, heart racing, believing something catastrophic just happened in the room. Finally, let's talk about hyperphantasia and its almost unknown opposite, aphantasia. While most people can visualize mental images with varying clarity, individuals with aphantasia simply cannot form mental images at all. Ask them to imagine a beach, and they will describe the concept, but they see absolutely nothing in their mind. Meanwhile, people with hyperphantasia experience mental images so vivid they can rival reality itself, sometimes blurring the line between memory and imagination. These two opposite conditions show how radically the subjective experience of human consciousness can vary between people who otherwise appear completely normal. Before we continue, there is a case that tends to leave even experienced neurologists speechless: Cotard Syndrome, also called cortical blindness with denial. Patients with this condition are completely blind due to lesions in specific areas of the brain, but surprisingly, they keep insisting that they can see perfectly. They bump into furniture, crash into walls, describe colors and shapes that simply are not there, and still insist they are seeing with total clarity. When confronted with evidence that they are blind, they invent elaborate explanations to justify every stumble, every mistake, as if the brain itself refuses to accept the loss of vision. Another fascinating phenomenon is prosopagnosia, commonly known as face blindness. People with this condition can see perfectly well, but are unable to recognize faces, even the most familiar ones. A father might look at his own son on the street and fail to recognize him until he speaks. A woman might look in the mirror and not identify her own face as hers. To compensate, many of these patients develop creative strategies, memorizing the tone of voice, the way someone walks, specific clothing, or even the perfume a person usually wears, all to avoid relying on facial recognition that simply does not work in their brains. There is also synesthesia, a condition in which the senses cross over in unexpected ways. Some people see colors when they hear certain pieces of music. Others taste specific flavors when reading certain words. There are reports of individuals who associate each number or letter with a fixed color so automatically and consistently that, for them, the number 7 has always been red and the letter A has always been blue since childhood. Far from being a disabling disorder, many synesthetes describe this condition as a sensory gift, an extra way of perceiving and feeling the world around them. One last case truly deserves special mention: savant syndrome. Some people, often after severe brain injuries or since the moment of birth, develop extraordinary abilities in very specific areas, such as instant mathematical calculation, absolute photographic memory, or advanced musical mastery without ever having received any formal lessons whatsoever. There are documented reports of individuals capable of memorizing thousands upon thousands of digits, playing a complex piece of music perfectly after hearing it only once, or instantly stating which day of the week a particular date from centuries ago fell on. Scientists still do not fully understand why the brain, upon losing certain functions, sometimes compensates by developing such extraordinary abilities in other completely unrelated areas. These real stories show us that the line between the extraordinary and the everyday within the human brain is far thinner than we imagine. While most of us go through life never questioning our own perception of reality, these people live with constant, vivid reminders that everything we consider certain, absolute, and obvious can be reconfigured at any moment by a simple alteration in specific neural connections within the mind. These syndromes remind us of something truly fundamental. The human brain, despite all the incredible technology we have available today, still holds profound and unsolved mysteries. Small alterations in specific connections can completely change the perception of reality, identity, and even the certainty of being alive. Neuroscience is advancing rapidly, but each one of these rare cases shows us just how much there still is to discover about the most complex machine in the known universe, the human brain itself. If this content opened your mind to just how strange and fascinating the brain can truly be, hit the like button, share it right now with someone who loves scientific curiosities and mysteries of science, and subscribe to the channel for more real stories that challenge everything you thought you knew about the limits of the human mind and the brain itself.